ਦੋਸਤੋ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ-ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਗਤ। ਮੈਂ ਦਵਿੰਦਰ ਤੂਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਇਸ ਪੱਟ ਦੀਆਂ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਅੱਜ ਵਾਈਲਡਰੋਜ਼ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੇ ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਕੰਟੈਸਟੈਂਟ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਬ੍ਰਾਇਨ ਜੀਨ ਜੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ। ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਦਾ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਹੋਊਗੀ ਉਹ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲੂਗੀ, ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਵੀ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ 'ਚ ਕਰੂੰਗਾ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਬੋਲੂੰਗਾ। ਸੋ ਫਸਟ ਆਫ ਆਲ, Brian, you didn't understand what I said, but I said I'm going to introduce you in English. So welcome to the program first.
Thank you so much. I really am enjoying being here.
So you are running for the leadership for the Alberta Wildrose Party. Tell us something about yourself first.
Well, I am an Albertan, first of all. I've lived here almost all of my life, 48 years. I've been a lawyer for 10 years. I've been a member of Parliament of Stephen Harper's government for 10 years. And I've been a businessman up in northern Alberta, owning and operating more than 15 businesses. Small businesses, Quiznos franchise, a car wash, a printing company, and just small mom and pop small businesses like many of us operate. And we understand, of course, that you have to be an effective operator to make money, and you can't spend more money than you bring in. And that's something that I think I bring to the table that none of the other candidates, or in fact Jim Prentice, does.
So you left politics before a few months ago. What makes you to come back?
Well, my desire to make sure that I do exactly what I did in Ottawa to the Liberal government there. The Liberal government was entitled. They thought they were entitled. They had cronies and they were helping their friends and families. They weren't helping Canadians. And I think, frankly, the Liberals were crooked. I do think the same thing applies to the PC government. They've been in power 44 years. They are not doing what's in the best interest of Albertans. They're spending money like it's their own. We had $17 billion in the rainy day fund in 2007. And they've spent that. They've also spent another $12 billion since then, and they're borrowing actually another $12 billion since then, and they're actually also borrowed another $1.8 billion just since January 1st. Who do they think is going to pay that? We, the taxpayers, are going to pay that, and that's not acceptable.
So they didn't pay since, I think, like from last 40 years, so now they are going to bring for another 40 years, or what do you think?
Well, I sure hope not. I don't think Albertans want a government that's going to stand around and help their friends and their cronies. I think Albertans want a government that's going to stand up for them, that's going to be honest, that's going to be hardworking and accountable, and that's going to make sure that we are a strong opposition that keeps the PC government to account and makes them not take our money and spend it on whatever they want, that brings in good fiscal policies, that brings in long-range planning, and makes sure that Albertans are the number one priority. And that's why I wanted to go to Ottawa to get rid of the Liberals there, and that's why I'm back here, because I want to be home, first of all, but secondly, I want to make Alberta a better place for Albertans.
How long have you been with the Wildrose Party?
Since 2011. I bought a membership from Travis Olson during that particular election, and when we went around to his area. He's actually a candidate for us again in Athabasca. He's a great candidate, and he's going to do an awesome job.
So what was the reason I asked you, because mostly MPs from the Alberta were supporting Wildrose Party, not officially, but they were supporting it in the last election or before the election. At that time, I think you were with the Wildrose Party.
Yes. In fact, that's absolutely right. Most of the federal Conservative members of Parliament were openly supporting the Wildrose Party and the candidates. But of course, because of the conflict of interest, they always stayed in the background, but they did internally support them.
So then PC Alberta brought Jim Prentice because they need some support from the federal government. Did it change?
No, it didn't change. But first of all, Jim Prentice was there from 2004, I think, to 2008 or 2009. So he wasn't there the entire time I was there. I didn't get to know him that well. But Jim Prentice is a nice guy, but he's not a conservative. And the PC party is not conservative, it's Liberals. And if you look at who makes up the PC party, it's Liberals that were kicked out of Ottawa in 2006. They're the same staffers, the same bureaucrats. They were looking for a job because, of course, we had to get rid of them there because they were part of the problem, not part of the solution. And those people came to Alberta because that's where all the jobs were in 2006. And now they're running the PC party and they're running the government. And it's not acceptable. Liberals borrow. They don't have any respect for taxpayers' money. It's not appropriate, and we need to make sure that Albertans realize that, and Albertans vote for the alternative, which is a strong Wildrose alternative government. And remember, the only thing that stands between Albertans and much higher taxes is the Wildrose Party.
Well, there's no question. I think since the last election, everyone believes that fiscally Wildrose is the best choice. But when it comes to the social issues, you think party is lacking some support?
Well, I think they have been in the past, and that's because of bad leadership. If you have a bad leader that doesn't know how to explain her policies properly, you're going to get bad policy, and you're going to get people that have the perception that we are some sort of party that wants to dwell on social issues. Let's be clear. I do not want to govern on social issues. I'm interested only in governing on fiscal issues. Now, There are some people that believe that we should govern on social issues. There's also some people that are anti-gay or anti-New Canadian. Those people are not welcome in the Wildrose Party under my leadership. I believe in human rights. I believe that the Constitution and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms of Canada is the ultimate law of the land, and I believe that the Supreme Court of Canada does the best job at interpreting that, and I stand behind those two pieces of legislation and the Supreme Court. And anyone that doesn't support anybody that's anti any other Albertan is not invited in the Wildrose Party.
The problem is, there are always, as you said, there's nuts and crazies are always in every party. And Danielle Smith officially said that she was having a hard time to deal with those people who are like part of that picture. How you will deal with them?
A good leader is a disciplined leader and understands that you have to have a proper team. It's just like when you're in an orchard and you pick apples and you have one rotten apple and you put it in a bunch of good apples, sooner or later all those good apples are going to turn bad. You have to have a leader that's prepared to take action and quick action and get rid of those crazies, get rid of those people that are anti-immigrant or anti-gay or anti-any other Albertan. We don't need them in the party. We don't want them in the party. What we want is people that are prepared to govern on a fiscal basis, to be prudent managers, to be accountable and honest and hardworking. Those people are the people we want. We want to make sure that all Albertans are represented and that all MLAs, Wildrose MLAs, protect Albertans' rights no matter what part of Alberta they come from and no matter which kind of Albertan they are, whatever their preferences are and their background.
So what happened after Redford left the party? Wildrose was leading in the numbers everywhere, in the polls, even in the financial support.
They were.
So PC decided to bring somebody named Jim Prentice. So only 17,000 votes, if I remember, that he got in his leadership race. So then the polls were actually pretty tight, but he called 4 by-elections. 4 by-elections, Wildrose was supposed to win only one seat. They didn't lost by a big margin, only by 300 votes. Why there were so many changes? Just tell me politically, like why so many changes happened after the by-elections?
I think it was bad leadership. First of all, these MLAs that crossed the floor some of them were negotiating back to June of last year. So they were actually negotiating before the by-elections happened. We battle with words. That is what we use as weapons. And to go to the other side, to go to your enemy and offer them the words and to offer to come over to them, that's nothing but a betrayal of family. That's stabbing your family in the back. It's not acceptable. And that's exactly why I am bringing about the first initiative that we would have in the Wildrose Party is a contract between myself and the Wildrose Party and any candidate that wants to run for the Wildrose Party and the Wildrose Party itself. And that contract would be if they were prepared or if they wanted to cross the floor to, for instance, the PCs, they would pay a liquidated damage amount of $100,000, which would first of all discourage them from doing it and would, in effect, I think, restore the trust of Albertans back to us. Because Albertans don't trust governments right now. They're disillusioned. But they need to understand that this was an attack by Jim Prentice, it was an attack by Danielle Smith, and it was an attack by the PC party on democracy. We have a parliamentary democracy system based upon good competition. And we need good competition both by the PCs, by the Liberals, by the NDP, but especially by the Wildrose, because we are the only party that stands between higher taxes and Albertans.
When it comes to, let's say, strategically voting, we just saw big changes, like Prentice surprised us when he lured Danielle Smith along with other MLAs to get to his party. But now we saw like Laurie Blakeman, and it's kind of a different politics. How you see that? Like 3 parties are going to nominate one candidate?
I find it troubling because I think Albertans want choice. Just like when we go to the store and buy our groceries, just like when we go to Canadian Tire and buy our hockey gear, we want to be able to price the differences out, price the quality out, make sure that we get proper quality, proper service, and good prices. And I think it's the same with politicians. What they want to see is they get value for money, that they have somebody honest, but they have a choice. They have a choice in different government intentions, and that means lower taxes or higher taxes. You want to pick the PCs, you're going to get higher taxes. You're going to get a PST. If you pick the Wildrose Party, you're going to get no tax increase. You're going to get less taxes, and you're going to get somebody that's prepared to concentrate on the fiscal position of government, not just on other issues. And that's what I think Jim Prentice has missed, and I think the PC party has missed. Albertans don't want all these other issues governed on. What they want is they want good, steady government that concentrates on the fiscal health of our province. Jobs, making sure we have alternative sources of employment of the economy. Make sure we diversify the economy away from oil and other natural resources. Make sure we diversify into renewable technology, renewable things like agriculture. Those are what Albertans want us to concentrate on. They don't want us to concentrate on social issues.
So what kind of budget? Actually, everybody's talking about budget because budget, then they will run for election right after that. What kind of budget you're expecting for Prentice to announce on 26th?
Well, I think he's going to hide the PST. I think he's going to hide the provincial sales tax. He's going to bring that in later. He's going to tell Albertans he has no choice, and he's going to bring it in later. But he is going to raise our taxes. He's going to make sure that we pay more taxes. I think he's going to reduce the amount of services we have. Just, for example, what he's suggesting in his 9% cuts across the board for all bureaucrats. What is going to happen, and you and I both know it, is he's going to get the CEO of the corporation to get his 20 managers to make the cuts. And those 20 managers are going to get their 300 managers to make the cuts. And ultimately what's going to happen is you don't cut yourself in the civil service. What you do is you cut those people under you because you can't cut the people over you. Those 300 managers, for instance, in Alberta Health Services are going to cut the frontline workers. And for us, that's not acceptable. We don't want cuts to nurses, doctors, teachers. Those people, we need more of those people, not less of those people. And those people are very important to our society and our future.
So when they brought the budget, not last time, I think it was the price was around $99. That's how they budget at that time. Now oil prices are $50, so they're going to put $50 for the next year. How are they going to balance like $7 billion deficit?
Well, they're not going to be able to. In fact, oil prices, I think this morning, were somewhere around $43 a barrel. They are going to use unrealistic numbers like they have been doing over the last few years. Budgeting at, for instance, $90 or $100 per barrel when we know that oil prices fluctuate dramatically is nothing but negligence. I do not think that, and they're playing with numbers, and I do not think that Albertans are going to reward that behavior. Albertans want somebody that takes a practical approach, a realistic approach to financial management, and make sure that we actually get services for the money we pay. And the Alberta government, the PC government, concentrates on process. We in the Wildrose, under my leadership, will be concentrating on results. Results in healthcare, results in education, parental choice in education. Those are the things that we're going to concentrate on and make sure we deliver to Albertans.
So when you say parental concerns, are you going to bring Bill 10 back?
No. Bill 10 is something that I think at this stage is between the religious schools, either whether they be Catholic or separate or Muslim. Those schools have the opportunity to challenge the government on this particular bill. They can decide if they want to challenge it because the government is actually forcing those schools, which I believe have protection under the 1905 Alberta Act, the federal act that brought Alberta into existence, and Saskatchewan, gave the choice to Catholic schools, minority schools, to have the right to teach their children as they saw fit. Bill 10 takes away that right, and I think it is susceptible to a challenge under the charter, but that's the decision to be made by the schools themselves and not by Brian Jean.
So it's the law now, so you're not going to change it?
I'm not going to change the law. I think, truthfully, that the courts are going to ultimately change the law, and they're going to change the law to reflect Wildrose policy. And Wildrose policy is that GSAs should be included in the public school system if asked for, but in the private school system, in the religious schools, they should not be required to do so because of the 1905 Alberta Act. But if indeed there is somebody that asks for something like that, it's about bullying. It's not about GSAs. It's about bullying kids and kids feeling susceptible to that bullying. So alternative methods and an alternative mechanism has to be set up in those religious schools.
Same thing Mr. Prentice was saying before a few months ago. What makes to change his mind though?
Well, what he's done is, again, adopted and stolen the Wildrose position because he knows that it's a better position. Now he's changed his mind, I think, because of internal pressures. And maybe, very possibly, he talked to the Catholic School Board beforehand and made a deal with them. I'm not certain as to why. But he did change his mind, and I think that reflects exactly who Jim Prentice is and the PC government is. They will change their mind based upon how the wind blows rather than actually governing and having a long-term vision and making sure Albertans are represented properly.
ਦੋਸਤੋ ਇੱਕ ਲੈਣੇ ਛੋਟੀ ਜੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੇ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫਿਰ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੁੰਨੇ ਆ
And we know that Jim Prentice wants to call an early election, an illegal election, because he's very concerned about oil prices, and the financial state of Alberta is much worse than he leads us to believe. So he's very afraid. And once we, as a strong opposition, get in there to audit the books, to make sure that what they're doing is actually right, I think Albertans are going to be very shocked and afraid of what they see, because the PCs have put us in big debt, and that debt will continue to climb without a change in government.
And now let's talk about your leadership race. 3 candidates. One candidate is talking about actually not the Wildrose policies. Those policies are passed in the AGM. That's what Wildrose is so proud of.
We're a grassroots party.
Yeah. So what we heard from last few days about Bill 10, and then today actually about change in the royalty regime.
Ridiculous.
That's
all I can say is ridiculous.
No party wants to talk about it. What is it all is it's a political suicide. Why they are talking about it?
Well, I want to talk about it, and I want to tell people clearly that royalty rates will not change. When we make a contract, we keep a contract. When we give our word, we keep our word. That's what's important. Royalty change would destabilize the economy. Our economy right now, the world economy, is very fragile. We need to make sure we concentrate on our economy first and leave the other issues behind us. To suggest that we're going to change a contract between ourselves and our very revenue stream is ludicrous, in my opinion. It's not good government, it's not good business, and it doesn't make any sense. Keep our word, keep our bond to those people, make sure we have a stable economy, use our non-renewable resources to add value to the non-renewable resources, either upgrading or refining or pipeline capacity that goes to some tidewater somewhere, anywhere, because we're discounting our oil up to 30% to the Americans, and it's not fair and it's not right. But we have to focus on what Albertans want and their priorities. We can't focus on ourselves. And I think that's why we need a new government. Do you know that since the PC party has been in government, some 44 years in Alberta, we've had 51 changes in the rest of the country, 51 new governments across the other provinces? That tells you clearly what's going on. The PC government will change their spots to whatever the populace vote wants or thinks they want, and they will try to destroy the parliamentary democracy system that we have, the greatest system in the world, by buying off the Wildrose 11 that left the party. It's a tragedy, and frankly, I think it's a threat and an ultimate attack on our democratic system entirely.
I was talking to Trent here and Darshan, 2 Liberal MLAs, and I also talked to one NDP MLA too. They told me a formula. I want your opinion on that.
Okay.
Say if we will bring a progressive tax in Alberta, like BC or Ontario, we can have $12 billion more in the budget. We only need $7 billion. We can easily balance it. You think that formula works?
I think their formula is, again, really silly. First of all, if government takes your money, they're going to spend it, and they're going to be asking for more money. We don't need more taxes, we need less taxes. Why? Because people know how to spend their money better than I do. They know how to spend their money better than the other MLAs know. They will spend their money more efficiently to keep the economy going. Low taxes mean more money at home with the people that matter, the people that vote and the people that pay the taxes. I think it's a much better formula. The formula for low taxes means we have more corporate investment here from other countries. It means we're more competitive. That means we get more jobs for Albertans. Corporations don't really pay taxes. The people that buy from those corporations, the people that are employed by those corporations, they pay taxes and they will suffer as a result. Those are Albertans. We don't want Albertans to suffer, not Alberta families.
So you will stick to the flat tax. You won't raise taxes, I guess.
That would be the last solution for any Wildrose government. I can't even imagine a situation where we would raise any taxes whatsoever.
But you will look at the spendings though.
The spending is the key. We do not have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. We spend more per capita on healthcare than anybody else in the country. We make more money per capita than anyone else in the country, and yet we have the worst healthcare, or one of the worst healthcare records in the country, and we have the youngest population in the country. When you combine all of those things, we should be paying less per capita than anybody else, and we should have better results. We don't. But it's all the way through our system. 47% of our budget almost is spent on healthcare. And if you walk into any hospital, you can see the amount of waste. If you look at any budget and how much they spend in March of each year, for instance, which is called and coined March Madness, they're spending up to 20% of their budgets in March, because if they don't spend it, they don't get it next year. Now, I believe that we should be concentrating on results. Results for our seniors in aging in place facilities. Results for the patients of Alberta Healthcare. Results for Albertans, whether it be in the justice system, whatever it is, because Albertans only see government in small doses, either in healthcare or seniors care. Why can't we get that right? If we get the big things right in government, everybody is happier, everybody is better off. Government needs to get the big things right, and healthcare, there's nothing bigger.
Let's talk about education a little bit.
Sure.
Because a lot of post-secondary students now think that their tuition fees are going to increase. There's no doubt. So basically, Jim Prentice, even Alison Redford promised that there won't be any increases, but we're listening about 30% increase this year. And even they promised a lot of schools that time. We were always confused with the numbers because first Alison said 50, then Mr. Jim said 70 more, then Daniel Smith said we need 50 more, so we don't know, there were 170 or 120. So, but now they are part of the same group, so we don't know the exact number. What do you think? How are we going to build more schools? And by looking at the post-secondary education that will increase 30% tuition fee in 1 year?
Well, the first thing is I don't trust what the PC government says anymore. I just can't trust them. I'll give you an example. In Fort McMurray, we've had 5 promises by 5 different premiers to build an aging-in-place facility at a particular location, right across from the hospital. We've had 5 governments, 5 premiers make that promise, and 5 times they've broken that promise. Now they plan on moving that facility some 16 kilometers away, not even close to the hospital, not even close to any community, no mall, no stores, anything. All they want to do is ship off our seniors to some isolated place. It's not acceptable. And I can't trust the PCs anymore. I can't trust them on schools. They say they've started 28 schools, 28 projects. Well, I'd like to see where those projects have started because we've looked for those projects and can't find them. We found some construction fences around some locations. We haven't seen a single shovel in the ground.
But they're pretty good in putting the signs there.
They're good
Didn't you see that
at cutting
sign?
ribbons. They're good at that. And in fact, they keep the sign business going very well in Alberta because that's all they seem to be able to do is make announcements, make re-announcements, and re-announce the re-announcements. So I don't think that's what Albertans want. What they want is they want a leader and a party that does what it says and says what it does. That's what the Wildrose Party is under Brian Jean's leadership. We will do what we say, and we will say what we do.
So how the leadership race is going so far?
Well, I have to tell you, I've had a tremendous amount of response out there. I think people recognize that not only do I have the political experience from a federal perspective, but also I come from Northern Alberta, which gives us a pan-Alberta opportunity to actually have a Wildrose party that's represented right across the province. They also like my litigation experience as a lawyer and my stand on human rights and how I stand up for all Albertans, no matter what they prefer, no matter what their background is. That is, I think, the key to the future for us. We have to represent all Albertans equally. They also like my business experience. And I've spent the last 4 weeks traveling the province. I've slept in my bed probably about 2 times in the last 6 weeks, and I don't plan on sleeping there more than 2 times in the next 6 weeks. What I plan on doing is visiting Albertans. I have an RV, and I'm traveling around as much as I possibly can to meet as many different constituency associations, as many candidates, and as many people as I can to spread the message that the Wildrose is alive and well, and we are coming back, and we are fighting hard, and we are going to represent Albertans. And if they trust us enough to elect a good number of MLAs that are Wildrose members and Wildrose candidates, I think what they will find is be pleasantly surprised that we will keep this PC government to account. We will make sure they are as transparent as possible, that they are accountable, and that means a strong opposition. So please, when you're thinking about casting your ballot, cast it not just for Brian Jean as leader, but cast it for the Wildrose so that we can be a strong opposition force to make sure these people, the PC government, doesn't take your money and waste it.
21,000 members when you started the leadership race.
Mm-hmm.
Are you relying on them or are you selling more new memberships?
Well, I only had a month to sell memberships. As you know, it's pretty tough to sell memberships.
It was closed on 14th Friday,
yes,
right?
It was closed, yes.
Okay, so...
Well, on Saturday at midnight, really,
okay.
if you could get them to the computers in time.
So whoever is the member till that date can vote for this leadership?
Absolutely. And there are 21,000 members, but we've also got another 4,000 on top of that. And I think we sold somewhere around 2,000 to 2,400 memberships out of the total 4,000 that were sold. So we were the best in selling memberships, but also I believe that the Wildrose members that are currently there understand what we need in a leader and understand the ramifications of not picking the right leader at this time. We don't want another Danielle Smith. We want somebody that's going to have the experience, that has the expertise, and that can connect to people, but also is not in it for themselves, is actually in it for Albertans. And that's what I'm here for.
When Danielle Smith won, she got around 6,500 votes. You think you'll get more than that?
I don't know. This is different times, and you know, there are a lot of people out there that are disillusioned with the Wildrose Party at this stage, but they're really more disillusioned by the PCs and the political process. As I say, what I hear is that I'm sick and tired, most people say, I'm sick and tired of politics and politicians that break their promises. And they feel the 440,000 people that voted for the Wildrose, they feel that those particular members violated their trust. I believe it was Jim Prentice and Daniel Smith that violated their trust, that actually caused this problem. But it's not just an attack on the Wildrose. It's not just an attack on Albertans. It's actually an attack on the democratic process which we rely on so heavily. We didn't get the greatest country in the world with the greatest economy in the world by accident. We did it because the proper fundamentals are there, the proper government structures are there. And that means a strong opposition that keeps the government to account and offers Albertans a different solution and a different option. That's what we want to do, is provide a better option to Albertans. So there's a competitive structure in Edmonton, and they don't spend your money like crazy. And that's what they're doing right now. We spend $2,000 more per person than any other province in Canada for social services, for services. Why can we not do it more cost effectively? Well, I'll tell you why. There's too many managers. There's too many high-level managers. There's actually 5.6 managers for every, there's actually one person for every 5.6, one manager for every 5.6 people in the Alberta Healthcare Services. I don't think that we need a manager for every 5.6 people. I think we need a manager for maybe every 20 or 25 people. We have 14,000 cell phones that are paid for by the taxpayers of Alberta that are used by Alberta Healthcare Services workers. And I can imagine those phone bills aren't an average of $30 or $40 each month. I would say they're more an average over $100 because it's free money for these people. It's not right. That money belongs to taxpayers, and I think we need lower taxes to make sure that people don't waste Albertan taxpayer money.
दोस्तों एक लेने छोटी जी ब्रेक ते ब्रेक तो बाद फिर शामिल होने हैं। दोस्तों ब्रेक के बाद फिर थोड़ा बहुत बहुत स्वागत ते ब्रेक तो बाद ओमे इंग्लिश ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਜਾਰੀ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ so about leadership I want to ask you a few questions because we got some questions from your actually competitors, right? They said we are fiscally conservative and libertarian, but Brian Jean is the socially conservative. Is that true?
I think you know better than that. I've been clear all the way from, it is funny though, because they would try to label me. I'm not a social conservative. I am a born-again Christian. Certainly I believe in God. I think most people that believe in God understand what it is to believe in God and respect other people that believe in God, because they know that people that usually believe in God respect others' values, and that's what I do. I respect everybody's values and their beliefs. I believe in the Charter of Rights of Freedoms. I believe in the Constitution of Canada, and I believe that everybody is equal in Canada. All Albertans should be governed for accordingly, and that's what my motto is. Do I believe in something? I absolutely do believe in something. I'm proud to believe in it. But am I prepared or interested in governing on social policy? Not at all. I want to govern on fiscal responsibility. There was a reason why I have a master's in business administration and finance. There is a reason why I took a Bachelor of Science degree in marketing and management. There is a reason why I did a law degree. And those reasons have nothing to do with my social conservative values, because I'm not a social conservative. They deal with finance, they deal with law, and they deal with making sure that Albertans have a good leader that can move forward policy on fiscal prudence, make sure that we can save money on taxes, make sure that Albertans have a better quality of life. Ultimately, that's what it's about. Politicians should not be governing social policy. It's none of my business what you do in your home, just like it's none of your business what I do in mine. What matters is how I'm going to operate, how I'm going to manage the economy, and what I'm going to do for you. And that's what I'm going to do, is govern for all Albertans and make sure the Wildrose Party stands up equally for every Albertan, no matter who they are.
And I want to ask you, because this is the ethnic channel, sorry, got it there, right? I want to ask you before, it is the ethnic channel. The reason is we got a lot of foreign workers, and Alberta was getting a lot of temporary foreign workers. There were some problems with the federal government and provincial governments. So what happened is that if you got nominated by any province in the Canada, you get certain percentage of marks or certain kind of privileges when they apply for permanent residency. I found out on their website that if you are nominated by Alberta, you don't qualify, but you only qualify by other provinces. So as the federal representative, the MPs of our area, they don't know. Provincial government doesn't know. How does this happen?
It happens because there's not enough strength in the PC government. There's not enough strength in the Alberta government to actually negotiate these things properly with the federal government. I have great relationships with the federal government, with the caucus, with the cabinets. Nobody else has those relationships. I think what you have to do is have proper communication, and I think I'm the right person to lead the Wildrose Party and make sure Albertans are properly represented at the table. And they're not right now. We're not represented properly on equalization. We're not represented properly on foreign workers or immigration status. If you look at what Quebec has, they have a much better system. They've negotiated that system. I think we have to have better negotiation. But when you don't have the PC government standing up for Albertans at the table in Canada, how do you expect them to fight for any priorities? They're not even there. They don't negotiate. They don't talk about things. That's what we need to do better, is we need to have proper negotiation, and we need to stand up for Albertans. We are the people that pay more per capita for taxes than anybody else in Canada. And I think Stephen Harper and the Conservative Party are doing a great job. But there's some files that we need to have a better job on, and we need somebody to stand up for Albertans, and that person is Brian Jean.
Will you renegotiate the transfer payments too?
Well, at this stage, that's something that is not easy to renegotiate, but certainly there are some things we can do. For instance, there's 60 to 80,000 people that live in Alberta that don't pay taxes in Alberta. They are getting good jobs. Average wage of these people is probably somewhere between $150,000 a year and $200,000 a year. And they take the money after they live in our camps and use our social systems, the hospitals, the healthcare, the emergency rooms, whatever the roads, the bridges, whatever our assets that we paid for, they don't pay for it. They go back and they spend that money wherever they are because they don't want to live here. And I say if they don't want to live here, they shouldn't want to work here. Because what we need is more Alberta families that want to raise their kids, to have a good standard of living, have a good quality of life, that actually have something invested in the communities. And that's why we do need to look at upgrading our resources, of refining our resources, of finding ways to add value to it, because we need more Albertans employed, and we need a more stable economy. I've been in Fort McMurray all my life, and I've seen boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust. And I've seen people go out of business a lot. I've seen a lot of layoffs, and I don't think it's right. I think Albertan families deserve better. I think they need a government that has a stabilized vision for the economy, that looks at other options besides just oil sands and natural resources, that tries to expand and stabilize our economy so that there's no layoffs, so that when times are good, we save money, so that when times are bad, we actually invest that money, and we invest that money at the times when things are cheaper. For instance, if you want to build in Fort McMurray 6 months ago, it would cost you $450 a square foot to build something out of concrete steel. If you want to build something today, that same price is about $225 a square foot. Now, when you're building a 14 or 20-story building, that's half price. Why would the Alberta government, who has a natural monopoly over taxes and a natural monopoly over royalties, why would it not save for the times that are bad and then stabilize the economy by investing in our roads and bridges and schools and hospitals at that time when things are, frankly, not as good, and when there's not as many jobs around, because that would stabilize the economy and give people jobs that are laid off in the oil sands, laid off in the other natural resources sector that are suffering.
So under Brian Jean, we can expect a Alberta action plan?
Yes, we can. We can,
So,
and we can actually expect not just what I say, but what I do, because I will do what I say. And the Wildrose Party will stand up for all Albertans equally, and we will make sure our economy is better, and we will take action to improve the economy, to improve jobs, and to improve the quality of life of all Albertans.
So if you win, let's say you win on 28th, what will be the first step you will do?
First thing I'm going to do is sign a contract with the Wildrose Party that if I cross the floor, I will pay the Wildrose Party $100,000. First of all, I'm never going to cross the floor. I had an opportunity in 2005 with the Liberals. I would never cross the floor. But every candidate that runs for the Wildrose Party will be signing the same contract, or else they won't have me as their leader. They will not be running for the Wildrose Party. That means that we will have no more defections. If they want to become an independent and vote however they want, that's their prerogative. But if they want to damage the Wildrose Party and damage the people that actually put them there, that's not going to happen. So that would be my first step. Do you want to talk about some of the steps I've already done?
Yeah.
I've already prepared a campaign plan. We're almost finished on the campaign plan. We are ready for Jim Prentice and the PCs. We are ready. We have a very skilled team. We have 10 of the best people, I think, that have been put together in Canada in some period of time with experience on many different campaigns at many different levels. Hundreds and hundreds of different campaigns these people have worked on. We are ready for the PCs, and we are ready to show an example and a positive message for the Wildrose Party. And I think Albertans are going to like what they hear.
The important issue will be the fundraising. I was just looking at the number, like Stephen Mendel got $250,000, $150,000 surplus. You look at Jim Prentice, $176,000 for that riding, and then you look at Gordon Dirt's, almost $100,000. How are you going to get that much money?
Well, we're out there now doing it. We've got 4 fundraisers across the province. They've been doing it for a period of time. I actually took it upon myself to raise funds just for my leadership race myself, and I'm already well heeled. I don't need any more help on the leadership race. And I did that because I want these 4 campaign fundraisers to raise money for the party. And it's no secret that Daniel Smith and the other defectors almost bankrupted the party back in when they left the party and when they ran those 4 by-elections in Calgary, that 3 of them they couldn't have won no matter what. I'm not certain as to what political advice they received, but they certainly made the wrong decision. We can't afford that to happen, and we are raising funds now. But I would say that if Albertans believe in this message, if Albertans believe that it's time for a change, then Albertans should support the Wildrose Party. We will not waste your money. We will support you with your support to us, and we will make sure that we stand up for all Albertans. We need to have fundraising, there's no question. But Albertans ultimately are not going to be fooled by no matter how much money the PCs pay. They know that they can't be trusted anymore, and they know they need a strong opposition. That's what the Wildrose Party is prepared to provide.
In the last election, you know there was some controversy in the last days of campaign, like lack of fire comment and those comments. What would you do if you were a leader at that time?
Well, a leader has to take action, and taking action on those particular individuals would have been to let them leave the Wildrose caucus and not represent the Wildrose views, because they don't, so they would have had to been fired. The truth is that they should have been fired immediately upon those views coming out. You can have whatever views you want, but if you want to run for public office and you want to be a candidate for the Wildrose Party, you better make sure your views are consistent with the views of most Albertans, and that is that we represent all Albertans and we're not anti-anything. We can't be seen as an anti-immigrant party. In fact, there's no place for that in our party. There's no place for people that are anti-gay or anti-immigrant or anti-anything, except for they can be anti-new taxes. I don't mind that at all.
Because those are natural, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes to like becoming a leader on 28th, you have a lot of nominated candidates.
We do.
So if you ask them to sign the same contract or the affidavit, if they refuse to do it, what you will do?
Well, I will refuse to sign their papers. As a leader, I have to sign their papers going into the election. But I've talked to these candidates. These candidates are so happy that this has come forward. They've heard at the door clearly that this type of behavior by the Wildrose and the PC to stab democracy in the heart is not acceptable. So they're very happy with this contract. In fact, I got the idea by talking to some other candidates and them telling me that this could not continue, and we had to make sure we had a strong signal to Albertans that this would never happen again, and that's what we've done.
So Wildrose members are saying they're looking for a fresh and new face.
Can you get any fresher or new than this?
Are they talking about you?
I sure hope so. You know, all I can tell them is that I have a lot of experience in federal politics. I've run a lot of campaigns before. I've been a litigator for a long period of time. I've been a businessman, a very successful businessman up in northern Alberta and elsewhere in the world. I do have an international education. I've been in many countries around the world. I love to travel. I think I understand what Alberta is made up of, and it's made up of people from around the world, people from many different cultures, many different beliefs, and I think we can all get along just fine. In fact, better than that, I think we can be a big family. And all Albertans are welcome into the Wildrose tent because the Wildrose tent is big. And we're happy to represent all Albertans because that's the future, and that's what we need to do.
Calgary, when we look at overall Alberta, Calgary, Edmonton, and rural Alberta. Southern Alberta, Wildrose has a good hold. Still, they have a good hold. Calgary, they were in the middle. Edmonton were low. So basically, when we look at you as a leader, you belong to further north, right?
I do, yeah.
You think this will help?
I think Wildrose members are smart, but yeah. You're absolutely right. When I was looking at the membership breakdown, and I didn't want to sell memberships yet because I didn't want to announce this. This is part of a plan and a strategy to take on the PCs, not to take on other Wildrose candidates. I did look at the membership, and we had about 80 members in Fort McMurray, for instance, my hometown, my stronghold, where I got 72% in the last election. So it was a bit troubling, but you know, when I started to travel around and talk to people, they really support me. They support me because of my ideas, but also because of my background and my honesty. And you know, I am a fresh face, but I do have good credentials to be able to, you know, represent Albertans and to be able to argue toe-to-toe with Jim Prentice and provide other options. And I think that's what they see, and that's why they're picking me. And I am leading, I believe I am the leadership contender right now, the leader of it. And I believe I am that way because I'm being honest with Albertans. When they ask me questions, I tell them honestly. And I have a passion for Alberta, and I think they see that.
So when you say 72%, it was upward going curve though, because when you run first, I think it was 60 something.
Yeah,
then it-
60%,
and then it went
65%, 68%, and then 72%.
After you left, you have a by-election there in the federal politics. Not too many people showed up. Even the winning margin was not that big.
46%, yes.
It was close.
But the person that ran there before me got 48%, 50%, and 52% in 3 elections.
So it was Brian Jeans. That's where I'm coming.
Well, I don't know if it was Brian Jean or not. I guess voters can decide for themselves. But you know, I lived in Fort McMurray my entire life. I was very active in the community. I mean, I wasn't just a businessman. I wasn't just a lawyer, and I wasn't just a member of Parliament. I also was very involved in the community. I was a director of the Chamber of Commerce. I was the president of the Downtown Business Association. I was the chairman of the BRZ organization, which is a business organization. I was also the chair of the Children's Health Foundation of Northern Alberta that raised money for hospitals, children's hospitals in Northern Alberta. I was also sit on an international board called Health Partners International that sends millions upon millions of dollars in free medicines around the world every year. I have a perspective of community involvement that rivals anyone. Alberta Summer Games as director, many other organizations that I've supported and I've been participating in as a director or otherwise. I also taught university courses for free. I have a Jean Family Scholarship, Aboriginal Family Scholarship for people that live on reserves in the area, and that's been 20 years now, I believe, that scholarship's been going. So I'm directly involved in the community, and people see that and they like that because they understand that I'm not just a hardcore lawyer or a selfish businessman or a hardworking member of Parliament. They actually know I give back to my community because I love my community.
Let me ask you an odd question. It's not going to happen, but it's speculative. Let's say you win the leadership, and Jim Prentice don't call the election till 2016. So you will sit as a leader from outside?
Well, let's think about this. First of all, they only sit about 68 days a year. So I don't even, is that work? Like if you
No.
showed up for work 68 days a year, would you not be fired?
So you won't miss that.
I'm not going to miss anything because the election's going to happen, and then he calls a summer break because they're going to take off 6 months. That's another thing I'm going to fix. I'm going to actually make politicians lose their perks, and I'm going to make them work because that's what we're there for. We're not there to tour around the countryside and shake hands and kiss babies. We're actually there to implement laws and to save our economy and make sure people have jobs and a better quality of life. I'm not going to miss anything because they're not even going to show up until then.
So there'll be a question for you. Where are you going to run?
Well, I'm going to run in Fort McMurray because it's my home.
Well, there are 2 seats there.
There are 2 seats there.
So which one?
We're going to have to wait and see, but I am going to run there.
Because you represented as federally for both ridings.
I did, yes.
It's a big riding.
In fact, I represented 6.5 ridings at that time. My constituency was actually 180,000 square kilometers.
Oh my God.
It covered 30% of Alberta and 47 different communities. So it was a big constituency. It included Lac La Biche and Slave Lake and High Prairie and Athabasca and Wabasca and many other places around the province.
Lac La Biche is open too. You might run from there?
You know what? I'm not from Lac La Biche. I think we need to have more local candidates that actually live in the riding and represent the people there because they understand the people. Because we are a caucus that comes together to make decisions for them. And I think we need local people to make those decisions.
The reason I asked because BC just had a nomination on Saturday. They have about 1,800 people show up to vote. That's the red thread, like any rural community, and so much for the membership. And I don't know who they got. It might not be a preferred candidate, but might be good for Wildrose because they have existing MLA there.
We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I am dedicated to the people of Fort McMurray just because I love Fort McMurray and I want to go home. My youngest son actually lives there full time when he's not in the hospital, which he is now. And my other 2 kids live in Edmonton, but both of them work up in the oil sands. And my 2 grandchildren live in Edmonton. So I get the best of both worlds. My mom and the rest of my family are in Fort McMurray, and I get to spend time with them when I'm with voters. And, you know, I have a lot of friends in the area. And then I get to go to Edmonton to work hard for the people of Alberta, and I have my family there. So I really have the best of both worlds. I don't want to live in Lac La Biche, as beautiful it is. It's one of the most beautiful places in Canada, there's no doubt. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's gorgeous. And it's got a very thriving community. But they should have somebody that's local represent them. And I want to make sure that happens, and we will have a good candidate there.
Okay, when you say that you are going to be a strong opposition, why you don't say government?
Well, I think I'm a realist and I'm a practicalist, and I understand that right now we don't have very many seats and that Albertans are a little disillusioned. I think, though, Albertans recognize fully that we need a strong opposition to make sure that this government doesn't take our money and waste it or steal it or send it to somebody else, one of their friends or cronies, that we make sure government's more efficient. I don't think they, at this stage, are prepared to elect us, but if they do, that's nice, but I don't see it happening. I think what they want is a strong opposition that's going to hold them to account, and really that's what we need to do. The Wildrose has been the best opposition that the PC party has ever faced. Obviously, that's why they tried to destroy us.
Last by-election, they used the slogan, "Send PCs a message." Will you use that or you'll change it?
I'm not going to be using any management technique or messaging that Danielle Smith used. I think she sent the wrong message. I think she made a lot of blunders, especially in relation to the 4 by-elections. 3 of them were not winnable under any circumstances. They are PC strongholds. So by sending the message that we were competitive in those areas, just sent the message to me that she did not know what she was doing and her team was not knowing what they were doing. I'm not going to do that. We've got a brand new Wildrose party. We have better memberships now. We have better candidates now. We are going to fight for Albertans' priorities, and we're going to do a good job. But I think Albertans will trust us. They have to learn to trust us, and they will. But right now, they just need a strong opposition, and that's what we want to do, is be a strong opposition. They've seen us be a strong opposition in the past. They trust us to do that, and they know that under my leadership, we will do that. We have the experience, we have the capability, and we have the focus.
How about the negative politics? Wildrose is always blamed for playing negative politics. They always tell us the PC government's not doing good, that's not doing good. They never come up with their own agenda, though. That's what people are complaining. Will you change that?
Well, we're going to have to wait and see for the election, but I can promise you I'm going to do things differently. I saw Stephen Harper, who I believe is one of the greatest politicians that we've had in North America over the last 50 years. I saw him take us from opposition when I was there to a minority government, to another minority government, and the only government in any democracy in the world that got re-elected after 2008 was Stephen Harper with a majority. It's a miracle, but it's a miracle based on hard work, accountability, and a great leader, a great management style. That's what I'm going to adopt my style to be, is very similar to Stephen Harper's style. He's a great leader, and he made sure that he disciplined properly and focused properly, and that's who I am as well. I'm very focused, I'm very hardworking, I'm very honest, and I'll make sure that Albertans get what they pay for, and that is a good leader and a good Wildrose opposition.
But ethnic communities were close to Wildrose. They actually like to try the new things, definitely, when it comes to politics. There were a lot of bid-based membership. So what message you want to give to the people who are listening to us in Punjabi? I will translate the whole interview in Punjabi later.
I appreciate that. My Punjabi is not very good.
Yeah. So what message you want to pass on to this, that under your leadership, how we see a change coming?
Well, we'll see, first of all, a fresh face, a new face, but also a face that has a lot more experience than the last leader. A face that wants to govern for all Albertans, a face that will not allow anybody in the party that is not prepared to govern for all Albertans, a face that is hardworking, as I mentioned, and accountable and honest. And I think they can see from my track record. If anybody goes back to Ottawa and sees what's happened, it's on the internet. They can see how I voted. They can see that I actually voted. They can see that I spoke more words in the House than many other MPs. They can see that I worked there 5 days a week, not 3 days a week. They can see that from a number of areas. First of all, they can go to the internet and see how I voted, but they can also see from the plurality that I received, the percentage that I received from my voters in Fort McMurray, Athabasca. They continued to re-elect me at a larger plurality than ever, 72%, which I think was one of the highest in the country, top 10 or so of pluralities in the country. You don't get that without working hard and being accountable and honest. You get that through being exactly that, a hardworking individual that focuses on what the people in my constituency wanted, and I voted that way, and I worked that way, and I'm going to continue to do that for Albertans.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. We can wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully you will be a good leader, and we might interview you after you become a leader
Thank
or
you.
premier in future.
Well, I hope so. I hope Albertans can trust me enough. I promise that I will work hard for them, I will stand accountable, and I will govern equally for all Albertans.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. ਦੋਸਤੋ ਇਹ ਸਨ ਬ੍ਰਾਇਨ ਚੀਨਸ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਵਾਈਲਡਰੋਜ਼ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਲੀਡਰਸ਼ਿਪ ਲਈ ਲੜ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਏ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕੀਤਾ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਣ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ।